we on?
Yeah, second.
How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah. All right. Our one goal tonight is to reclaim that song from Robin Thicke. Call it all the blood lines there. But really, we're gonna share a little bit about our story this evening and how we've sought to blur the lines in our lives between play and profession and family, all in pursuit of our shared purpose.
So Brent and I met in Boston in 2003 in an serving in an AmeriCorps program called City Year. And City Year is a program where you serve for 1 year in the Boston Public Schools with 100 of your closest friends who are also serving as AmeriCorps members, all between the age of 17 and 24. It's an incredible opportunity and great way to get to know a city and a great way to get to know some of the assets that a lot of people don't really talk about. And so as Brent and I got to know each other, we realized that we had a lot of differences. And Brent was born and raised in Harrisonburg, pre-Jack Brown's Harrisonburg. I was born and raised in Norwalk, Connecticut, which is about an hour outside of New York City. And he graduated from University of Richmond with a degree in finance. I graduated from Virginia Tech with a degree in communication studies. And not only did we grow up and were born and raised in different places, which are only about 7 hours apart, still on the same coast, but Norwalk, or New England really I should say, and the Shenandoah Valley are very different places. And when you grow up in those two different places, you bring very different worldviews. There are very different cultures and different ways of being, different paces of life. And so those were some of the differences that we started to realize about each other. And when we were preparing for this talk, I remembered that I made a list in my journal in 2004 of things that, I made a list of things that were different about each of us, and then I had this third column of like what was the same in that category. So at the risk of being a little bit cheesy, I'll share a few of them from my journal, keep this in mind. So one of them, still very true for us, is that Brent is a big Washington Redskins fan. I'm a big New York Giants fan. But we both really love football and we both cheer on the Hokies, so that works. And then the other sort of silly one was that, and this is a very regional thing, when it comes to athletic footwear, I prefer the term sneaker, very northern term. Brent says tennis shoes, but we both have really big feet. 11 and 16. What can we say, our poor daughter. And we often joke that it's a really good thing that we met when we met because we probably wouldn't have been friends in high school. And Brent likes to give me a hard time about my love for marching band. I did band in high school and in college. But I remind him that being on the golf team wasn't actually the definition of cool. So. I think we're sort of even there. But despite what were sort of superficial but kind of fun things to talk about, you know, we had different worldviews and there were things that made us see the world in different ways. So I give to you Exhibit A.
That's bad.
Okay, well, this is sort of disappointing, but if you could paint a picture of, here, we'll sort of reenact it, of the Lincoln Memorial right behind us. Brent has a t-shirt on that says McCain Palin, something like this. And I have a t-shirt on that says Obama Biden. So that was our 2008 Christmas card. We'll have to email that out to you. But anyway, so we have some very different worldviews, but what sort of united us and continues to is this desire to serve the community, which is what brought us together originally in AmeriCorps, and to sort of have that greater purpose.
And I will say, without getting into politics, things change, right? So.
Well, the best part about that picture, again, is that I'm smiling and Brent is not. So we saw how that worked out.
You can put the picture. So we had a lot of differences, right, which Laura sort of alluded to. But we did have this we were grounded in this bond of a shared year of service through City Year. And sort of committed our lives to, at least that year in particular, to serving young people in Boston. And we were not only united by sort of that shared purpose and that shared year of experience, but, and hopefully you can sort of feel this here, but like we wore this every day for a year. We wore red jackets, khaki pants, and Timberland boots every day through the city of Boston. So we were not only sort of united around this idea of service and being really committed to that, but also that very classy uniform right there. And this sort of theme of service and continued really throughout our 20s. We had stayed in Boston. It sort of worked out so that we were part of different organizations and not just City Year. So that was a common bond that we had. Also during this chapter of our lives, we were really learning what it meant to sort of be in a relationship. We got married. And anybody that's in a relationship, right, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of challenges that come with like really trying to figure that out. But we always kept coming back to sort of our center, right, which was being committed to the community around us and this idea of service. And with most chapters, right, they sort of come to an end at some point, and another one begins. And so after 7 years of living in Boston, we sort of realized that we were looking for a change. We weren't exactly sure what that was going to look like or what that was going to be about. But we did know that we wanted to write a new chapter. We were both sort of burnt out from our jobs, and I think some of it was just like burnt out from the idealism of the 20s. Anybody else have the idealism of the 20s, right? So you sort of navigate what that looks like, you know, moving forward, maybe have some additional perspective there. But I think some of that was happening. And so somehow, some way, and like this process was a little faulty, I think even still today, like we said goodbye. We said goodbye to Boston, right? And then we said hello to Harrisonburg. Like, I don't know. So, you know, so that transition was really big for us. And sort of after the move and the transition, we ended up in Harrisonburg. And you know how like when you move, right, it's just craziness, right? Like lots of things going on, lots of transition. And sort of once that settled, we realized that we had sort of different feelings about being here and sort of this new chapter of our lives. We each had different sort of connections with Harrisonburg. I had grown up here, but that was sort of pre-Jack Brown's, right? So it was sort of a different city, new people here. So we really were sort of starting over and trying to find our way here. Some pieces had sort of come together. I found a job sort of in my field in education. We found a church home in Rise. But the struggle was sort of real in terms of finding our way, finding what that purpose looked like here in Harrisonburg.
So our move to Harrisonburg was really hard for me. I was, again, born and raised in Connecticut. All my family is still there or somewhere in New England. And, you know, after the excitement calmed down, I realized I'm really far from my family right now, and I miss them. And I'm living in a small town, and I don't know, I'm sort of learning what the dynamics are of a small town, and that was new for me. And people do things slower here than they do where I come from, and I'm sort of annoyed by that. And so it was just kind of all those things that like you don't notice at first. You're like, oh, that's cute, and people have different accents, and but it's really not cute. You know, at some point when you start to feel really different. You know, Harrisonburg may be called the friendly city, and in a lot of ways it upholds that nickname, but it doesn't always feel that way when you move here from a different place. And, you know, it reminds me of people that come here from different countries, how different that must feel. I mean, I was only coming from 7 hours up the East Coast, but nonetheless, it was very different. And so in that time, you know, and any of you who are in a relationship, you know that if one person is struggling, the struggle is very real for both. And so we were sort of in a place of needing to just keep moving forward and figuring out, well, what does purpose look like now? And sometimes that pursuit has to just be enough. And so in the fall of 2013, I hit what I felt like was a pretty significant low, and just feeling like, what is my purpose here? I don't really feel like I'm being challenged in the way that I want to be challenged. I don't feel like I'm contributing in the way that I could be. And I don't know what to do. And so in November of 2013, Brent and I had a conversation that went a little something like this. Hey Laura, did you see that the United Way director is leaving? Yeah, I think I saw that in the paper. Are you going to apply for the position? No. Did you read the job description? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know if I'm qualified for that. I think you should read the job description again, and I think you should consider applying for that position. So I'm forever grateful for Brent's support and encouragement. After experiencing a whole lot of rejection, that just felt like it could be another one. But it wasn't, and I'm grateful to have been serving in that role for almost 2 years now. And as cheesy as it might sound, it really has changed who I am, and it's truly a dream job for where I am right now. So the next chapter that we want to share is also a very life-changing event for us. In 2012, Brent and I became parents. I know.
We just dropped the mic to walk off.
He's a showstopper. So this is Lucy. She was 6 months in this picture, and she just turned 3. Hashtag teenager. She is an amazing little human being, and as all parents do, we love her to death, and she has changed our world. But when you become a parent, you sort of think about all those natural things of, everything's going to change. Everyone tells you that, and you realize, like, okay, I'm going to get less sleep, and I can't spontaneously go out to dinner, and those kinds of things. And then there's those things that you're like, I don't really know what's coming, but other things are going to change, and those happen too, and sort of blows your mind. And it's challenging in all the ways that it can be challenging on a relationship, but also really exciting. And so we talked about preparing for all those changes, but we also talked about, well, what does this mean for who we are and our purpose? We're going to bring this human being into the world and be responsible for her, and we don't want to just sort of drag her along to whatever it is we're doing. We want her to be a part of that. So what does that look like? We didn't know. And so those were conversations that we had, and conversations we still have, because that obviously changes as she hits different stages in her life. And so that was really important to us. And sort of as a side note, you talk about realizing differences amongst you and your significant other. When you have a child and you're just trying to figure out, how do we get through towards bedtime? You see them doing things sometimes, and you think, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And then you see them do things and you think, oh, I wish I thought of that. That's a really good idea. I'm going to try that next time she won't fall asleep. So it's a beautiful experience, and one that we have really embraced.
And so we really, Laura said that really well, we really just didn't want to lose ourselves, right? We wanted a little human being that was an addition to our family to really build upon the foundation that we had and not feel like we lose ourselves in that process. And really incorporate her, again, into that foundation and our purpose around being engaged in service in our community. So this is one of our favorite pictures. Shout out to Create Momentum. Alan's in the house, Kevin. Right? So this picture is right before the Valley 4th run, I think 2 years ago. Right? And for us, this is one of our favorite pictures because it sort of is a depiction of us being able to blur the lines and sort of what that looks like for us. I'm in the middle of, I think, a school board campaign at this point, right? Sort of decked out in swag. Laura's repping her United Way shirt. Lucy's trying to figure out what's going on. But she's with us, right? Like, she's there, she's sort of interested, excited. And, my role in the Valley 4th Run this year was, and this year too, was to participate in the 5K and to push Lucy in the stroller. Lucy's role in this was to sort of chillax, right? Her feet are up in the stroller. And whenever I sort of slowed down to catch my breath, run, Daddy, run, run. Right? So that was her role within this. But what was sort of cool, right? Like, I had some people come out for the campaign, Laura and United Way, they're sort of manning the water table as a part of that event. And again, just for us, like, it's a beautiful way where sort of all of our interests sort of come together around this idea of being engaged in the community, sort of being of service, and doing that with Lucy, right? Being a part of that, and sort of enhancing, again, that foundation that we had sort of built together.
So, as we've shared a couple of examples, throughout our lives, we have had a lot of opportunities to embrace our differences and see those as opportunities, and then embrace that purpose and mission that we have for ourselves and for our family. And so some people might think of this or call this Brent and Laura. Laura Miguel Wells. that as the infamous phrase of having it all. And I know particularly for the women in the room, you sort of cringe when you hear that because it's directed towards us often, but not always. But what I dislike about that phrase is that it is often referred to in a way that makes us think we have to sacrifice one thing to achieve another. If you want a good career, you're going to have to sacrifice your family. If you want to be there for your family, your career is going to suffer. But we've never really bought into that. I've always just sort of felt like that was a bunch of BS. And we felt like that before we had kids, or a child. And obviously, you know, when you have a child, that changes things. And you have to sort of reassess those priorities. But for us, it was always about, you know, well, what does all mean to us? And I think it means something different to everyone. And for us all was being able to build our family and engage in meaningful work at the same time.
And yeah, so while, just want to wrap it up here, right? So like, while blurred lines aren't necessarily good for relationships, like we found them to be pretty awesome, right? In terms of like how we build our life together, and sort of this idea of pursuing our purpose together.